Okay. Now, hello everybody. Welcome to the Minutes with Milo show. And we're unmuted. A lot of technology stuff going on. Mushy brain. Worked hard today. Makes for a bad intro. But the music's good. Even though it's over and over and over and over. But, that's when you start going, man, I wish Milo was here. Come on, man. Get on there. Let's go. Get rid of this music. So, 103 videos. I got like, I don't know, 10 or 12 podcasts out there. I need to do another one. Yeah. Anything else? Like, subscribe. 101 subscribers. Let's keep going. Tell your friends. Get it out there. Leave me some comments. If you're watching the videos, even after they're not live, they're recorded on YouTube, leave me a comment and say, I liked it, I loved it, I want some more of it. So, anyway, numerology, numerolunos, I don't know. So, I don't know. Is it numerology? We'll look at its meaning. But I kind of like it. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I'm interested in it when I see it, and I think it's very interesting, and listen to what the people think it can do, what it means, those kind of things. But would I sit down and, really put my mind to it and study it and try to figure it out? So one of the things that I think about, and it may be tied in with numerology, because when I look at the definition, it kind of alludes to this, is are the stars aligned for you? People's luck, fate, astrology, that's what, they're talking about, the stars being aligned. But how's that determined? Well, you have to have a date of birth, right? So with that date, then you can determine where the stars are, at the time you were born, and all that. Does that, give you better luck than, your neighbor down the street or the guy you work with? I don't know. But since you have dates, there's numbers involved. Potentially lots of numbers. Not just, the day of the week, what was it, 2 or 3 or 4, fifth day of the week, how many minutes are that? How many, see, and that's one thing I find kind of, I don't know, odd about numerology is if you're smart and you have a head for numbers, or if you study it and look at it, or if you just spend enough brute force time on it, you could figure out a really wild correlation between numbers. And to me, that's what numerology is. The square root of pi plus the time it takes for a star to go, light years to dead years in milliseconds, and you divide that by the circumference of the universe, and then you add 12 because, you're 12 years old, and bam, you come up with this big number, and that's supposed to be your winning, lottery number, your mega billions number. Well, that's fine. Do that. If you think that's when you should, go to your boss and ask for a job at that specific time because the numbers right then are the line that's going to give you the best chance for getting your raise, then, do that. But, seen movies where, one in particular, I wish I could remember it, where, his whole life revolved around trying to figure out numbers. and he became so obsessed that all he could think about was these numbers and what they mean, and it led him down a big rabbit hole. And I think Beautiful Mind was kind of like that, but he was more conspiracy theory, how not how numbers related, but how events and people and snippets of headline, car runs off into creek, those kind of things were tied together as a big map of who was trying to get the advantage in, was it World War II or something like that, spies and espionage and all that kind of stuff. So I had Mexican for lunch, and just like pizza, ate a lot, and it makes me so thirsty. I've just been so thirsty all day after I had lunch, which it's good to drink water, but I don't guess it's really good to take that much sodium in. It has to be a lot, but it was good, and I cleaned my plate like a good boy, made a happy plate, and so I had 2 cookies just a little while ago with chocolate on them. I didn't have chocolate ice cream. I've got some. I think it's like Rocky Roads or Moose Tracks or something. But anyway, I eat chocolate syrup on chocolate ice cream. So if I had, chocolate whipped cream, I'd put that on there. I just like chocolate. Chocolate's so good. Chocolate. So let's look at the definition of numerology. And let's go over here. Let me get this up. Of course, we're going to go to the best Wikipedia there is, and look at that. Free encyclopedia. Bring that up. Let's put that away. Bring it up a notch. Hide that. Where? Now, dang it. Where did you go? Numerology. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now, let's see. Wait a minute. What happened? Where did I go? Put that on top of that. Shrinker me down. Let's put me like right there. Transition that. Look at that. There he is. We're going to go back up to here. How's that look on the screen? I don't know, but it takes up quite a bit. So you get to see my smiley face and the definition of numerology. Gotta have another drink. Water is good, but sometimes I like just plain water. Then I think, well, I'd like to have some of that, flavoring in it. So I put some of that in it. And then it's too sweet. So I add more water. And finally get a balance of just enough taste so it doesn't taste like water, but not so much that, you get all this sugar stuff. Yum, 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 yum. All right. So, let's see. Numerology, known prior to the 20th century as arithmancy, is the belief in an occult, divine, or mystical relationship between a number and one or more coinciding events. It is also the study of the numerical value via an alphanumeric system. With the letters and words and names from numerology is applied to a person's name, it is a form of omancy. Onomancy is often associated with the paranormal alongside astrology. There you go. There's the alignment of the stars. And is similar to divinology, arts, divinatory arts. What is that, man? Divinatory is the attempt to gain insight into a question or situation by way of an occultic, standardized process or ritual. used in various forms throughout history. Diviners ascertain their interpretations of how a something something should process by reading signs of events. That's like reading tea leaves or rolling the bones, or is that what that dude was doing? Maybe rolling the bones, or coming up with something. Tarot card reading, those kind of things. So, see, even in the definition, it talks about, it being an occult, divine, or mystical relationship between a number and more coinciding events. So, one of the things, going back to the birthday. So I started thinking, and this is, why I started this show. So I think a lot of stupid things, and I just want to, I don't want to make you dumber by sharing them with you, but I want you, you know, to think, well, that's kind of weird. Maybe that's worth a thought. But anyway, instead of the day you were born, seems like your luck would start the nanosecond, the millisecond, or however long it takes when you are conceived. Because then, at that moment in time, that's when you're actually in the live stream. And I say that because, in my mind, I associate, you think of this timeline of, it's like a river, and people are jumping in and falling out of the river. They're being conceived, and then they're dying, So your birthday is a long time. I mean, it's all right. So 24 hours. How specific could that be? So then you think about, well, all right, let's take it down. What hour were you born? Okay, you're born in the 11th hour. What minute? The 25th minute. What second? You see what I'm saying? So you get down. So why not think maybe it's the time that you were conceived that then starts you're thrown into the timeline, the time river, and you're now flowing in the river, and that's when your actual luck, situation, karma, whatever it might be, when they say the stars were aligned, I think it might be the instant that you are conceived. Where are the stars? How is that? Does that really affect your luck? I mean, I like that idea better than, the minute you take your first breath, because maybe you had good luck or bad luck in the womb, see? Who knows? It should be from the point that you're conceived, thrown into the time river, and that's when your luck, your karma, your, I don't know, astrology, whatever it might be, starts. But anyway, so numerology is partly trying to predict things with numbers, or to try to figure out why, this happens to you, or this happened in the world, or this happened to your brother-in-law, or something like that. But it's, we'll look at some examples. I've got like 3 examples that I've kind of looked at to, I don't know, get an idea of how far-ranging numerology is, what it means to some people. So let's look down here a little more. Talks about where it's derived, history. I wish I could pronounce these. Right here. What is that? Gematria is the practice of assigning a numerical value to a name, word, or phrase by reading it as a number, or sometimes by using an alphanumeric cipher. The letters of the alphabet involved have standard numerical values, but a word can yield several values if the cipher is used. So, let's see. Words, numbers, BC commissioned by. So that is its history. The practice of that was assigning numerical values to words and names to inputting values with religious meaning dates back to antiquity. Assyrian inscription from the 8th century BC before Christ, commissioned by Sargon II, declares the king built the wall of Khorsabad, 16,283 cubits long, to correspond with the numerical value of his name. He used Mitra to interpret passages in the Hebrew Bible. Alphanumeric systems or methods. There are various numerology systems which assign numerical value to the letters of the alphabet. Examples including the Abjad numbers in Arabic, Hebrew numbers, Armenian numbers, and Greek numbers. The practice with Jewish tradition of assigning mystical meaning to the words based on the numerical values and a connection between words of equal value is known as the Gematria. So it's all about, this is about converting words to numbers. Yeah. Hello, Craig. So did you get my rant on, I think your karma starts the minute you're conceived. So yes, by the time you're born, you already have 9 or so months of being affected by your karma, and in conjunction with your mother's, because you're tied together. So yeah, I'm thinking you ought to, instead of looking at your date of birth, and I think this is where it comes into play. It's easy to pick your date of birth because it's recorded. Nobody really knows the moment of your conception. Now, you may be able to talk to your parents, your mother, and say, when do you think I was conceived? And she may say, well, it was on New Year's Eve, 1961 or whatever it might be. Okay, well, that gives you an idea. But is she really sure? I mean, you would hope, but, well, it could be New Year's Eve, and then it could have been, New Year's Day. Well, then let's see, well, it could have been, the 3rd of January of 61. And then, well, we took that trip to, Las Vegas in February. Maybe it was in February. So, there you go. That's the problem with my theory, is it doesn't make it easy. Maybe that's why, all these people just like, oh, give me your date of birth, and we'll just go off that. It might be missing the mark by, 9 months, which could be a lot. When you're trying to tell, somebody's lifeline, or, trying to figure out their magical number so they can win that $1.2, $1.4 billion coming up. So this, to me, it's assigning a lot of value to letters of the alphabet. And it's English. Does it work with the English alphabet? Maybe it's Hebrew. Maybe it's Greek. Maybe it's Latin. I don't know. That's the thing. If this were true, let's just say, yes, it's true, then you would need to know, does it work for English? Letters and names and, that kind of stuff. Maybe you're, like I said, you're so far off by, because that's not, not the language that it was based on, or if it's based on a language. Or maybe since it's numerology, it could be applied to any language. Maybe that's its secret. Let's see. Let's get into some examples. So basically, we know that people are taking numbers and associating them with good or bad fortunes. Pretty much. All right, so relationship between a number and one or more coinciding events. It's a mystical relationship. It's occultic, that kind of stuff. Secret voodoo stuff. So I won't say the most common, a big one is in astrology. and science of numbers. The day when a baby enters the world makes an intense impression. Not just this, the name he gets from his parents makes a huge difference in his life to be. What will be his personality? How will he do in his career, etc.? But what becomes the prime point of analysis in numerology is the combination of both the factors, name as well as the date of birth. So, here we go again. What if they're always missing the mark because these people that are supposed to know what they're talking about are using your date of birth instead of the date of your conception. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is because it would be simple. It's simple to know your date of birth. According to numerology, one can predict a number of things, scenarios, and whatnot about people, their personalities, along with their future. There are several types of numbers, techniques, and calculations analyzed in numerology, and they are birth date number, karmic cycle number, life path number, and sun number. All right, so they put a lot of thought into these numbers. The history of numerology stands among one of the oldest methods of figuring out of the world and folks living in it. In different areas, the numbers in numerology have several and varied fates connected with them. Thus, it becomes a compulsion for everyone to know what the history of numerology was and how it originated. For ages, many nations followed the general concept of numerology. Countries like Japan, Greece, India, and ancient Egypt have already begun the usage of numerology and its methods. Along with it, there are proofs that the concept of numerology was also practiced in nations like Rome and China in ancient times. So, basic way that I understand it works, and this is what this is describing, and I saw this when I look at some of these other examples, and it's very convincing. Like I said, when I watched that movie about numbers, and I think it had, let's see, Will Smith in it. Let's see if this is it. Astrology. Nope. Jim Carrey. This is it. The number 23. So the number 23. This is the one that I was thinking about. 2007 American thriller film, starring Jim Carrey. A man who becomes obsessed with the 23rd enigma once he reads about it in a strange book that seemingly mirrors his own life. The film was released in the United States February 23rd, 2007. Second film to pair, blah, 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 Batman Forever. Yeah, it goes on. The plot. Walter Sparrow's birthday, February the 3rd, his wife, Agatha, gives him a book titled The Number 23. As a birthday present, Walter starts reading the book and notices striking similarities between himself and the main character, a detective named Fingerling. Fingerling is obsessed with the 23rd enigma, the idea that all incidents and events are directly connected to the number 23. So throughout the movie, he keeps, finding these things, and he keeps stretching it out further and further and going. It's one thing to say, 22 plus 1 is 23. Okay. It's another thing to go and take a string of numbers based on the time of the day, the temperature of the day, your shoe size, how many steps you took to work divided by blah, 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 blah. It comes up, and miraculously, it works out to 23. That's what I found interesting in this book. Was it starts out as, fairly simple, and it gets to be, if you're hunting for a number, and you add and subtract and divide and multiply and twist a bunch of other facts and numbers together, then you could make it come out to be 23. And then you could just say, oh, well, it was hiding from me, and I had to go through a lot of different possibilities to discover the true meaning. Well, you just made it work out to 23. And, in this book, I think that's what he got into, was he just got so obsessed, and, like a lot of people you hear about potentially, counted his steps and how many breaths he's took, and then multiplied it by the number of times he blinked his eye and, hiccuped, and that gave him, the number 23. So, and it's really kind of funny how that, you start thinking of like, well, my gosh, dude, you put a lot of thought into that. A lot of thought into that. But it was a pretty good movie, I like Jim Carrey, and as you can tell from the picture here, it, took a toll on him. So this is like if your date of birth, and I worked it out. If you looked at my little thumbnail, I know you didn't, not closely. I put in the examples of what I made this out of. Let's see if I can bring it up here. The one that 4736 was a number that I put into that thumbnail that I made for the video. So that's MYLO, and you just take what's the number of M in the alphabet, and the M is, now this is the way this works. If you look at the example right here, the way that it works, and I'm not using date, month, or year, I'm using alphabet. So M is the 13th letter of the alphabet. Well, you don't use 13. You use 1 plus 3 equals 4. So M is equivalent to 4, not 13, 4. And that's the way this, like down here, right, LM. So L is the 12th letter of the alphabet, i.e. 1 plus 2 equals 3. So that's the way I did it. So 4736 is MYLO. Now what does that tell you? I don't know. It's just, if you look at what numerology is supposed to mean, if it's your name and your date of birth, and some of these other numbers that you're looking at, then that should tell you, what numbers are your magical numbers. Should you travel on, the 4,736 hour of this year to go on your vacation, because that's, the number of your name? Should it be used to, whatever, 4,736. So the date, like if you're born on, let's use a different month. Okay, let's just say you're born today, 10/5 of 2023. So 1 plus 0 is 1, and then the 5th, 0 plus 5 is 5, and then 2023 would be 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3 would be what, 7? So, it would be 1, 5, 7. I don't know. What does it mean? Who knows? So, your magic number today might be, 1574736. Today's my day, lucky number. Let's put it all together and go buy the, the lottery ticket. So Numerology could help you make appropriate choices. Stop making those bad choices based just on common sense. Golly, use numbers. Use some scientific knowledge here. Numerology could help you make appropriate choices in life, and with the assistance of the numerology concept, one can figure out the traits of an individual and pick the appropriate opportunities that shall suit one all their life. So, if you find a significant other and a life partner, maybe you ought to check a little deeper. Let's do a little numerology investigation on that person to see if they're really appropriate for you. Numerology also aids in improving the relationship between two people. Numerologists with the concept of numbers can explain in detail the compatibility level between two people and their related conditions. Also, it can help in explaining what one must expect from the relationship. I just find it interesting. I mean, that's the deal. Numerology provides an insight into your future by disclosing the elements hidden from us in general. So I think my most interesting part is that you hear it all the time. The stars were aligned when you were born. That's the thing that I think is kind of interesting is your path, your luck, in life based on not when you were born, not in my mind, not when you were born, but when you were conceived. So that starts your time. Think about it. Let's just say when you're 42 years old, you have a near-death car crash. And this happens to a lot of people. If you've had something tragic to you by just seems like random happenstance, then you think, well, if I had been earlier, this would have happened. Or if I'd have been waited later, that would have happened. It was just that specific point in time that you were. Was that based on the fact that when you were conceived and then through the womb traveled out and then you were born and then through all that life progression, did it bring you to that one point in time where if you were conceived 2 days earlier and born 2 days earlier, would that have changed that one specific event in time for you? Made it better or worse? I don't know. That's not whether or not, you're compatible with somebody. I don't think, But if you believe one thing, why can't you believe them all? All right, so I don't know. Let's look at one of these things. Let's see how long we've been going. Holy crap, 34 minutes. We're not going to look at this. Anyway, so this is astrotalk.com, and it is their numerology introduction page. So astrotalk.com. If you want to go and find out and plug a bunch of numbers into master numbers, life path numbers, karmatic debt numbers, then do that. Sun numbers, marriage and numerology, finance and numerology. And what I find interesting, a lot of things I find interesting, is can you prove something? Marriage and numerology. Let's say you have a failed marriage and you get like, oh man, I'm really tore up about this. Should I get married again? Should I do all this again? And then you start thinking, well, man, maybe numerology would tell me why my last marriage, didn't work out. My first marriage was, and then you start backing into it. And like I said, you can almost do that where it's like, oh, that's why it didn't work. My shoe size divided by the time that I spent on the commode every day, multiplied by the hairs on my head, my chinny chin. We just weren't compatible. That's what happened. Maybe you should just forget about that. All right. So the other example I picked was the Bible. So there's a lot of thought A lot of study goes into things in the Bible. All right, so this site, crossexamined.org, a reference guide to biblical numerology. The main website is crossexamined.org. You maybe can't see it because my ugly mug's in the way. It's up in there. But anyway, so you go through this and it tells you here what the number 1 symbolizes in the Bible. And this is just their opinion, okay? But on my little thumbnail that I picked for the show tonight was the numbers that I found interesting in the Bible. And that was 1, 7, and 12. So that's on my little number, my little picture that I used as a thumbnail. Okay, so there was probably lots of significant numbers in the Bible. But anyway, 1. Why? Because 1 symbolizes the unity of God. There's only one God. So 1 is the main number. And I also read somewhere where it talked about, 1 stands alone, but yet it is a factor of all other numbers. Which, if you think about it, that's true. So how many 1s are there in 1,000? Well, there's 1,000 1s in 1,000. See what I'm saying? So that's why in that one place that I read, there's only one God, but yet 1 is involved with every other number out there. So it's saying basically one God, and yet God is involved in everything that goes on. So then 7 was another number. So let's look at 7. So it says 7 is one of the most important numbers in the Bible. It symbolizes completion, perfection, and rest. God finished creation in 7 days. There are 7 great land masses, 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 notes make a perfect scale, 7 days in the feast of Passover, 7 weeks between Passover and Pentecost, 7 days for the Feast of Tabernacles. God had 7 covenants with humanity. In Revelations, 1 finds 7 churches, 7 letters, 7 candlesticks, 7 stars, 7 angels, 7 spirits of God, 7 sealed judgments, 7 horns, 7 eyes of lamb, trumpets, thunders, mountains, bowls, kings, and so on. So 7 is used a lot in the Bible. So that's the reason I picked 7. It was just one, when I was reading down through here, I picked some of the most, important numbers. And then the other one that I picked was 12. So another major number in Scriptures, 12 symbolizes God's government. God brought about 12 tribes from Jacob's 12 sons. There are 12 lunar cycles corresponding to 12 months of 1 year. Jesus called 12 apostles. 12 is seen quite frequently in Revelations. So 12 was another number. And is this kind of numerology? I think you'd probably have to go deeper than what we're looking at here, what I'm looking at, to understand why 12 is significant and 7 is significant. Let's look at some of these other ones quickly. 17 implies victory. The prophetic beast of Daniel and Revelations will have 7 heads and 10 horns, totaling what? 17. They will be overcome by the power of God. 18 implies bondage, as identified by 18 people who served as judges during the time of great sin in the nation. And then it names them all. Let's see, what else we got? So I had read that 40 was an important number, but it symbolizes testing and trials. Genesis notes that it rained 40 days and 40 nights upon the earth in Noah's time of testing. Moses was in Egypt 40 years, in Midian 40 years, and served God 40 years. Moses was on Mount Sinai 40 days as God gave him the law. Jesus fasted in the wilderness for 40 days. Israel was in the wilderness 40 years. So a lot of 40s. So I'm wondering, I don't know. I'm not a biblical scholar. So I guess Moses, he was an Egyptian. He was in Egypt for 40 years, Midian for 40 years, and served God 40 years. Well, he was in at least 80 because he spent 40 in Egypt, 40 in Midian. What 40 years was he serving God? Was it a combination between those two, or was it just in Midian or just in Egypt? I don't know. Not a biblical scholar. 666. Got to read it. Symbolizes the Antichrist and the kingdoms of humanity opposing God. 666 is oddly a triangular number, thus representing a counterfeit trinity. The number is identified as the mark of the beast in Revelation 13:18. So it skips around a lot. Well, there's a big number. 144,000 symbolizes totality and the church. David's armies consisted of 12 sets of 144,000 in 1 Chronicles 27. In 1, or Book 1 of Chronicles, chapter 27. More indicative of the number, meaning the reference of 144,000 end time believers whom God saves from the trials of Israel. Don't know what that means. All right, so Bible was one that I also picked as an example of numerology. And the last one is Tesla. All right, so Tesla swore that the numbers 3, 6, and 9 were the codes to the universe. And if you could decipher the meaning of those and harness the power of 3, 6, and 9, then you could do anything. So what's so special about the numbers 3, 6, and 9? And this was one of the ones that I started down a rabbit hole on YouTube with these things, and it just blew my mind what these people were talking about, what 3, 6, and 9 meant. And it's math, but it's, to me, who I don't understand math, don't like math, it was pretty intriguing how they came up with these things. So the secret of the universes lie in the magics of 3, 6, and 9. The trio of magic, 3, 6, and 9. The mighty 3. Imagine the number 3 as the starting point of all creations. I don't know why, but just imagine that. It's a number that pops up everywhere, in patterns of nature, in the shapes we see, and even in the stories we love. It's like a magical number that brings balance and stability wherever it appears. A harmonious 6. Next in line is the number 6, a perfect blend of 2 sets of 3s. This enchanting number is like a bridge that connects opposites, creating a perfect balance. Think of it as a friendly mediator bringing harmony and unity to the world. And then last, the wonderful 9. And then we reach the grand number 9, a number that holds the secrets of the universe in its dance. It's a superstar in the world of numbers. No matter how you play with it, adding, subtracting, or multiplying, it always brings you back to 9. It's like the universe's favorite number, showcasing a nice magic show of patterns and sequences. Tesla believed that they played a heavenly tune and orchestrated the movement and rhythm of the universe. In his eyes, the numbers 3, 6, and 9 were not just numbers, they were keys to understanding the universe's big secrets. So Tesla's comic adventure where numbers are not just numbers but magical entities and fabrics of the universe. Alright, so let's see if we can get Tesla's theories. I was going to hope to find some of the process behind 3, 6, and 9. Let's see. Nope, that's the same place I just started out. This is a bunch of stuff, bunch of stuff, bunch of stuff, bunch of stuff, bunch of stuff. Let's see. Numerology, let's go back over here. Let's see. Why did it do that? I thought I got rid of that. Boop, boop. There we go. Let's just pick the first one. Probably should never pick the first one, but let's look at the first one. Let's see if it gives us a little bit more. People often explain the significance of 3, 6, 9 with something called vortex mathematics. Vortex mathematics refers to the pattern that emerges when we observe the natural and divine processes of the universe. For example, all life begins with one cell. That cell then divides into 2, which then divides into 4, then 8, and so on until you end up with a complete organism. When calculating the digital root of these doubling numbers all the way to infinity, you get every single digit number except 3, 6, and 9. Why is that? What does 3, 6, 9 number meaning? Does it have a spiritual meaning? Nikola Tesla did everything in groups of 3 due to his obsession with the vortex patterns of 3, 6, 9. His belief in the sacredness of the number 3 led him to do most things in threes. Okay, here's something that I had looked at before. Why 3, 6, and 9 are key to the universe. Scientist Marco Rodin discovered vortex math in the 21st century. He postulates that his vortex operates as a flux field, opening up a vector to the 4th dimension almost like a black hole. Imagine a clock starting with 9 at the top instead of 12. The laws of the universe dictate that life follows a fixed divine process of universal patterns. If we calculate the digital root of every doubled number from 1 to infinity, every digital root is 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, or 8. 3, 6, 9 never appear. Now on this clock of 9, you can trace the doubling of 1, 2, 4, and 8. However, 8 doubled is 16, the sum of which is 7. 7 doubled is 14, the sum of which is 5. So there again, that's what they're talking about, the sum of 16 is 1 plus 6. That makes 7. The sum of 14 is 1 plus 4, which is 5. 5 doubled is 10, which is 1. And the cycle then repeats itself forever. These numbers represent an unexplained pattern when doubling and calculating digital roots, producing an infinity-like symbol. The numbers 3, 6, and 9 remain untouched. So if you look at their little symbol, that's what they're saying. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8 are all interlinked with 0. But 6, 9, and 3 never get involved in that. And that's why they're supposed to be so special. And they go on to go, according to 369 serves as a key to the universe due to the power it holds over the laws of attraction. It gives the inner strength to tap to higher realities, dispels negative thoughts, and attracts abundance among life. So it has something to do also, you see this triangle or pyramid shape, it has something to do with that. Well, let's see. Instructions for Nikola Tesla's 369 method. First, set 3 distinct goals, then turn them into mantras or positive affirmations that you say six times for each goal. Speak these mantras resolutely as if they already happened and are currently part of your reality. The repetition of each mantra should last 9 seconds and will reduce self-doubt. Interesting. So basically the power of positive thought. So, numerology. Quite deep. But I did, if you get a chance, look up the on YouTube, Nikola Tesla's 369, and these people doing the math, and they make patterns, geometric patterns out of all this stuff, and it's amazing to kind of watch, because the thought that they put into it and the depth what they go into, and it, I'm sorry, the way they tell it, it makes sense. Just so be careful of what I'm telling you when you're listening to all that stuff. It's like, well, yeah, so let me call somebody up, let me send an email to one of these groups, I'm gonna get in on that, because this is the secret to life. Don't be like Will Smith's dude in the number 23 and get all revolved in it, and then forget to eat and sleep and go to the bathroom for weeks, days, whatever. You got to be careful, because they promise the secret to immortality and deliver nothing except 3 or 4 hours of entertaining video watching, because as like I said, you go down that rabbit hole and it's like, oh man, next thing you look at it, it's like, where did my night go? It's like coming out of a a trance. It's like, holy crap, I didn't eat supper or nothing. I got to stop this. So anyway, I don't know if Craig is still there, but I appreciate anybody that came, anybody that watched, anybody that suffered through this 53 minutes of numerology. So, talked with the boy band. We're going to try to get back together Monday. It's a holiday. It might fall through. I don't want to be a pessimist. I'm a realist. But let me see. What day's Monday? Oh, yeah. It's a Monday where you don't have to go to work. So, people are going to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And by the time 9 o'clock rolls around, they may not be fit to play a game of Craig says, I just woke up and I stayed the whole time. No, he just said I stayed the whole time. Well, thanks, Craig. You got to come by Monday if we get this thing going. I'm going to got to remind everybody, send everybody an email, I guess, about the movie quote. Maybe you could send me some quotes that aren't super hard, that aren't super easy, quotes from movies that you think are, popular or you like, that you might say or you've heard people say. And I'm going to ask them to the boys on the stream and try to see, and if anybody else wants to join. Of course, if you give me questions and you join, then I'm going to have to disqualify you for that question. But anyway, and see who comes up with the number, the most wins, most guess rights, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to try to come up with a list of, I don't know, 10 or 15. And I'll have to I was thinking about trying to find them on YouTube where the actual person said them. So I'm not going to use something, I'll just use this as an example. When Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator says, I'll be back, try to find that on YouTube. And then if somebody guesses it, play it. So, but it might be so much work. I just might say, Arnold says it in the Terminator. Even though Y50 is not a movie, but it's a good quote. because I used to say that all the time. I used to, a friend of mine went to high school with, he was always, I can't really explain it, but you know, if you look at Hawaii 5 Steve McGarrett uh, was he was he was dramatic. He was very stoic. He was very matter of fact. Book him, Dano. And when he would get like that, that's what I would say, and it used to make him so mad. Book him, Dano. And another thing, I was what was that one? It was Perry Mason. I thought Perry Mason had some kind of like quote like that. Uh, but anyway, it made him so mad. But yeah, those are the kind of ones I was going to think of. Go back, you know, I've got to be fair to Ryan. I've got to come up with some that are more modern movies, uh, so that he'll have a chance. You know, maybe I'll pick a couple of Donatello quotes because he's a Ninja Turtle fan. You know, pick some of those. But anyway, all right. Well, 56 minutes. We're just stringing it out. Anyway, I appreciate anybody that's watched. Like, subscribe, share it, leave me a comment, even if it's just to say, hey, I left a comment. Just because I don't think YouTube reads them. Maybe now with AI they do read them. But just the fact that you make a comment starts checking boxes off on their algorithms and stuff. So anyway, I appreciate it, and watch for the notification coming out about Monday. See if this thing's going to fly or not. We can get these guys together, get them all corralled in one place again. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye.